Welcome to Best Buds Gardening. I'm Julie. Today, I want to tell you a story. Miracle Soil. I've always gotten compost free from my local compost site. That, mixed with some other soil, makes a wonderful growing medium for all my garden plants. Well, one day, a friend of mine who worked for the city was telling me about his garden. His plants were so big and doing so wonderful, he purchased his plants and transplanted them into cemetery soil. He said that's the best soil ever. He said they dig a grave and pile the soil up behind the maintenance building. Maybe I ought to get some of that miracle soil. So I loaded up some empty buckets into the car along with my shovel and headed to the cemetery. When I arrived, there were people there visiting a grave, and I started to feel a little uneasy about being seen in a cemetery with a shovel. I'd rather not have an audience for this endeavor. So I went back home and made plans to go back after midnight when no one would be there. When the darkness of midnight fell, I snuck back out to my car and headed back to the cemetery. The gates were locked. Okay, I needed a different plan. I found out the gates are locked at 10 p.m. So a couple of days later, I set out for the cemetery again at 9:30 p.m. It would still be dark at that time. I pulled in to the dark, deserted cemetery and drove around to the back of the maintenance building. In the moonlight, I could see the huge pile of miracle soil. I got out of the car, unloaded my buckets, and began to shovel miracle soil into the buckets as quickly as I could. After all, now I'm in a cemetery with a shovel at night. It's just hard to explain that situation. I had thought briefly about wearing a disguise, but quickly decided against that, as that would have just made it look weirder. So I get back home with my buckets of miracle soil and quickly unloaded them. All the neighbors were tucked away inside their houses. Good. No one would see me do this perfectly okay and logical thing, but I still felt creepy about this. The next day, pretending to act perfectly normal, I started filling my containers with the miracle soil and planting seeds. I gave them a drink of water and waited. Kept watering and kept waiting. Nothing was sprouting. I stuck my finger into the miracle soil and discovered it was rock hard. It was full of clay and I don't know what else. I may as well have tried to germinate my seeds in wet cement. Nothing was going to sprout out of this. It was the worst soil ever. So now I had to go back out to the compost site and start my garden all over again. About a month later, I asked my friend once again how his garden was doing. Seems it wasn't doing so well, and many of his plants had mysteriously died. I know why. Now, so do you. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the bell icon so you'll know when I have a new video.